All right, let's talk about Mr. Robot. It's one of those shows that sticks with you. Super complex, super acclaimed. But today, we're going to try to decrypt it. We're peeling back all those layers to get right to the source code, to figure out what this whole thing is really about.
So, let's just get right to it. What is Mr. Robot really truly about? I mean, when you think about the show, what's the first thing that pops into your head? The answer feels obvious, right? But what if? What if those obvious answers are just a kind of illusion, a trick the show is playing on us?
Hacking, right? For most of us, that's the answer. I mean, it's the whole engine of the plot. It's where Elliot gets his power, and it's what pushes all the action forward.
Okay, or maybe it's about mental illness. And yeah, it's a really deep, sometimes really uncomfortable dive into a fractured mind that's just trying to figure out what's real.
And then, of course, there's the big one, revolution. That classic story of the little guy, the masses, rising up against this giant corrupt corporation, the whole 9 yards.
But here's the thing. What if all of that, the hacking, the mental illness, the revolution, what if it was all just a distraction? That's what we're going to explore today. The idea that all of that is really just a cover story for something way deeper, way more personal, and honestly, a lot more painful.
All right, let's start breaking this down. First up, the hacker illusion.
Right from the jump, the show hands us this incredible fantasy, doesn't it? You've got this broken genius, this total underdog with these amazing skills, and he's taken on the big, bad, evil system. It's set up so perfectly for us to root for him.
But let's look at it another way. What if he's not really fighting some external power? What if he's actually just hiding from his own internal pain? Suddenly, the whole global revolution thing, it starts to look less like a war on society and more like a projection of his own war with himself.
And that changes everything about hacking too. It stops being this act of rebellion and it becomes a tool for escape. Think about it. He disappears into this world of code, of ones and zeros, of pure logic and control. Why? Because his real, emotional world, it's just too chaotic, too much to handle.
And it really all boils down to this one powerful thought. Every single line of code Elliot writes is a choice. He's choosing control over connection. He's building these digital walls so he doesn't have to risk building any real human bridges.
So this whole idea of control, it totally changes how we see the show's title character, right? Let's get into our second part, Mr. Robot's true purpose.
Now, for a long time in the show, you're pretty much trained to think that Mr. Robot is the bad guy. He's this chaotic, destructive personality that's just pushing Elliot closer and closer to the edge. He's the villain in Elliot's own head.
But what if that's completely wrong? The big twist here is that Mr. Robot isn't trying to destroy Elliot at all. He's actually trying to protect him. He's a psychological protector, an alter ego that was born to do all the things that the real Elliot just can't handle.
And he has a very specific job description. He's the one who makes the impossible choices. He's the one who carries all of that unbearable anger. He takes the blame for the destructive stuff. I mean, his entire purpose, his whole reason for being, is just to make sure Elliot survives, whatever it takes.
So when you look at it that way, it's a huge shift. He's not madness, he's survival. He's literally the embodiment of a survival instinct that's been pushed to its absolute limit.
Okay, so that brings us right to the real psychological battle at the heart of this whole story. Section 3, the addiction to control.
This might be the single most misunderstood thing about Elliot. He talks a big game about freedom, about setting the world free. But if you look closer, what he actually wants, what he craves more than anything, is control. Just pure, absolute, predictable control. But why? Why would anyone choose that? Well, for someone like Elliot, the logic is simple. Control is just safer than being vulnerable. If you open yourself up to people, you're risking pain you can't predict. And his whole mind, his whole being, is designed to avoid that, no matter what.
It's a really fascinating, if heartbreaking, psychological trade-off. When you've been through that much trauma, the pain the pain you can manage inside a prison you built for yourself is so much easier to deal with than the complete chaos of real emotions and real relationships.
Okay, so with all this in mind, how does it help us make sense of that ending? The one that so many people found confusing or polarizing. That brings us to our final section, the honesty of the end.
See, the end of Mr. Robot isn't about winning some big war or taking down the final bad guy. The real victory, the final boss battle, isn't about winning at all. It's about letting go. Letting go of the rage, letting go of the need for control, and letting go of the other people in his head that he created just to get by.
And that's probably why the ending doesn't feel like a big Hollywood victory. Because the show is telling us that real healing, well, it isn't some giant, powerful explosion on screen. It's quiet. It's small. It's just that simple and incredibly difficult act of looking at yourself and finally accepting what's there.
So in the end, maybe Mr. Robot wasn't trying to be confusing. Maybe it was just trying to be honest, brutally honest, about how messy and confusing and non-linear recovering from trauma really is. It doesn't happen in a straight line.
And that honesty, it leaves us with one last really challenging question, because it turns the whole show right back around on us. It asks you, if you stripped away all the lies you tell yourself, the stories you create to feel safe, who are you? Who are you really without them?